Okay, so I'm going to talk about a book that I read recently. Finished it a couple days ago. And I'm not going to talk about it for long because I'm still a bit under the weather and my throat is having some things happen. So, the book is Three for Tomorrow. This is a Dell science fiction paperback, a first printing of the MMPB from 1969. Yes. Sorry. And these are three science fiction novellas by three big names in the 20th century sci-fi field. That is Robert Silverberg, who's still alive. He's in his 90s. Roger Zelazny, and James Blish. Now, I had read Zelazny before, but Silverberg and Blish were new to me. And the the ostensible reason this book was created and these stories were written is because Arthur C. Clarke, famous scientist, science fiction author, presenter of the 20th century, he wrote an essay or a few words about the future, and I'll go to the foreword. I think this is the essay in question, but he starts out with increasing technology goes increasing vulnerability. The more man conquers nature, the more prone he becomes to artificial catastrophe. Uh, so he goes on that topic for a couple paragraphs, but at the end he says, I would like to see more of those possibilities explored, if only in the hope that by so doing we can avoid them. So these stories by the three guys were written as a response to as man conquers nature, there are more possibilities for artificial catastrophe. And before we go on, I just wanted to show this really weird cover art, which goes across, but you have these misshapen heads. I'm not sure exactly what the design is of the geometrics, but then you have bodies crawling all over each other to escape some sort of demonic, hellish black pit. I don't know. I don't know if I like it, but it's interesting, and it wraps around. I don't believe they even said who the cover artist was, but that's cool from Dell. But to go into the three stories now. First, you have Robert Silverberg. He did the story. It's a long title. It's called How It Was When the Past Went Away. And this is a story about how for one day somebody introduces an amnesia-inducing drug into the San Francisco water supply. And Silverberg imagines the consequences of that. What would happen if pretty much the entire city, whoever drinks tap water, and there are certain people identified who don't drink tap water, who are safe, and that's another consideration here, but how these people who lose different amounts of memory from their brain, certain demographics were affected more, and it depended on how much tap water you drank, and as well as your maybe height, weight, gender, ethnicity, age, sorts of that. So different people had different erasures of memory, and this was an ensemble cast story. It was only 60 or 80 pages, but we followed a ton of different POVs. Like, I think we approached 10, and there were some people that reacted poorly to the loss of memory, specifically people that relied on their memory for their work. Like there was a mnemonist who needed his memory for work. Of course, he became despondent as soon as he couldn't remember a line of Shakespeare. And then we had a guy who was committing like corporate security fraud or something like that, where he was trading with money he shouldn't have been trading with, but he had all his trades in his head so that he could recoup the money he had borrowed to the people he had took it from before they noticed. So those are two people that took the amnesia hard. And then there's a lot of people that had relationship drama. Like there's divorces and people getting back together with ex-spouses, or just waking up in bed with people that they don't recognize, but they had actually been there, been like a long time partner, stuff like that. So this was I think it was an interesting thought experiment, but it wasn't an excellent story, but it was an interesting way to think about how something like this might have happened. And of course, when you're going through a hypothetical, it's either going to be stupid, as in you can tell the author just had something they wanted to say and they're going to say it, or it can be well-reasoned, rational, there's smart considerations. I think Silverberg fit into that second category. It didn't feel dumb. There was a big part of the story is people that have been released from grief. They've accepted the oblivion of their minds, and they have felt improvement in their life because they're released from the bonds of memory of things they didn't want to remember. So that was interesting too. We got all sorts of sides to this debacle. But yeah, all in all, though, it was an average story that I did have a good time with, but it's nothing great. But if you do ever want to read a large ensemble cast of events that happen in and around San Francisco and that deal with memory, you should read this story over Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, which is the same thing almost. Not really, but it's the same in what I just described. But that was the first story by Robert Silverberg. The second story by Roger Zelazny, this is my least favorite of the three. It's basically an espionage thriller in which Zelazny he introduces a couple things that relate to Arthur C. Clarke's prompt. The premise is that Earth is overpopulated, of course, and instead of some Malthusian economics like a lot of people go for, Zelazny and his world and his scientists, they're just going for more land mass. They're not trying to do anything with the population, they're just trying to get more land. And to do this, there's a project called Rumoko. And the short story is called The Eve of Rumoko, if I didn't mention that. And the Rumoko project is, they're going to dig down in the tectonic plates or something like that. And they're going to use nuclear detonations, and they're going to blow up parts of the Earth. And then those parts are going to float up to the surface and then be habitable land for the excess population. So that's the Rumoko project. The other futuristic item here is there's other groups of people living in bubble cities under the sea. But this story here, I'll go into less spoilers than the prior story, but there's a anonymous secret agent. He's erased himself from the information collecting domain of the United States, or of the world, or everybody is known. He's erased himself. He's on a mission to prevent sabotage of the Rumoko project. And it kind of reads like a James Bond-esque thriller, where I didn't like how it related to the theme of this collection. It was just a espionage story. Not bad, but I just didn't really want to read it that much. But yeah. Zelazny for me is hit or miss. I'd say this was a miss, but yeah, it wasn't bad. And then the third story was my favorite. It was called We All Die Naked by James Blish. My first time with Blish. And this, Blish imagines a world soon to be decimated by sewage and pollutants that have greatly accelerated climate change, into which sea levels, of course, are rising very high, but earthquakes as well. I think people drilled too deep, and the earth is slowly imploding, or something's going to happen where there's going to be earthquakes and mass flooding. And our characters that we're with in this story are in a Venice-like Manhattan. So even a place like the inners of New York City is submerged to a many-story level. And in setting this scene, Blish presents an opportunity for this group of characters they have the chance to escape to the moon in a rocket. Only certain people get to go to the moon, or to remain on Earth and maybe try to survive, but there's basically impending doom. So they're trying to rationalize their choices and how they got there. And this was a really powerful story. Blish is so bleak, and there's tiny elements of human hope, stubborn hope, but it was a really bleak story, and I don't know, it was just really good. It was really good, and the way Blish wrote, I thought was very interesting. It was very knowing, and the world that he created, it felt like it could be possible, of course, because we as humans do a great deal of trash making and pollution creation. So I don't know if we're quite there at a submerged canal-like Manhattan filled with swimming rats, but it was a haunting story. And as one character stated, we all die naked, apparently. Yeah, I forget why he said that, but I think another character's like, well, we don't have to. Yeah, that was 3 for Tomorrow by Silverberg, Zelazny, and Blish. And I doubt you'll ever see this unless you go to a really good used bookstore. I don't know how many copies this had, but I'll say I was really impressed by James Blish. And I want to find more of him. I know there's something... He has A Case of Conscience, which I think won the Hugo. But I really want to find Black Easter. I heard about this from the channel Bookpilled. He does a lot of great sci-fi reviews. And the way he described Black Easter, I can't remember exactly what it was, because I watched this video a few months ago, but it made me really excited to find it. And I have not found it yet, but I have now read some Blish, and I think I know that Book Pilled was probably right. And yeah, so that's that. I'm going to get back to reading my current mass market paperback, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke, on a little science fiction kick. Unfortunately, this Signet Classic Sci-Fi, the cover did not hold up, and it has fallen off. Thank you to the Jefferson Madison Regional Library in Charlottesville, Virginia, for this. I thrifted this, 4 years ago, maybe? And Signets often hold up well, I think. The spine has taken such a beating, but the way it opens, I'm not really concerned about the spine other than peeling. But yeah, the cover. Here's the thing though. Normally I would replace something if the cover fell off, but this Signet, it has plates. There were some plastic pages in the middle. I was like, oh, there's an advertisement here? No, it has plates from the movie. It has many plates from the movie. And I haven't actually gone through these yet because I want to finish the story first in case there's some spoilers or anything like that. Just don't judge me. I watched the movie 5 years ago, maybe. But look at all these. Why would I get rid of this? When have you ever seen a mass market paperback science fiction with plates? Look at these. From the Kubrick movie that Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke wrote together. Yeah. I might have to try and save this from oblivion. But yeah, I'm on page 139 out of 221. So about 2/3 done. It's really good so far. It's my third Arthur C. Clarke, and I can definitely tell it's the best. Childhood's End, also pretty good. I like that a lot. But I can tell, unless he doesn't stick the landing, which I assume he will, this is going to be better than Childhood's End. But, yep. That's my update for today. Thank you for watching, and talk to you later.